Hey everybody. So, the English language contains a lot of very specific words to describe very specific things. One of my favorites among these is defenestration, which my computer's dictionary defines as the action of throwing someone out a window. The fact that there's a word for this brings two things to mind. One, that it's really cool, and two, that this must have happened often enough that the word committee decided it was important enough to make it a word. That may seem ridiculous, but in the Middle Ages this happened, quote, quite often, and that it had, quote, the character of symbolic punishment. I mean, it probably also had the character of actual punishment, considering you're being thrown out a window, but I get the idea. Anyway, going back through the rich history of people being thrown out windows, we see a series of defenestrations that rise above all others. 15th to 17th century Bohemia was a major hotspot for defenestrations, culminating in the kind of famous Defenestrations of Prague. These are so well known in the field of defenestration that the word itself is believed to have originated here. All of these, as you can probably guess, involved people in Prague being thrown out of windows. Interestingly enough, all of these ended up causing a serious religious conflict or resolution. The lesson to be learned here, obviously, is that all problems can be solved by throwing someone out a window. Anyway, let's get right into the tale of those 3 times when people in Prague got thrown out windows, or the Defenestrations of Prague. Before we begin, it's important to point out that the term Defenestrations of Prague refers to 3 separate defenestrations that occurred over the course of 199 years. Not 200, 199. Apparently, the second defenestration is not counted as a significant defenestration, whatever that's supposed to mean. However, I will be including it here because the Defenestrations of Prague are simply not complete without the second one. Let's begin. The first defenestration of Prague occurred on July 30th, 1419. A Hussite priest named Jan Zelivsky marched from the Church of the Virgin Mary of the Snows to the Novomestska Radnice, I'm not going to say that again, which was the town hall of Prague at the time. The town hall members had refused to release their Hussite prisoners, and so Zelivsky and his gang were pretty upset. Apparently the march was peaceful until some wicked sharpshooter inside the town hall threw a rock at Zelivsky and nailed him right on the head. The crowd went mental at this point and they stormed into the town hall with the aim of getting their anger out, with some nice defenestration. And defenestrate they did, throwing out several council members, the judge, and the Burgermeister of Prague. Who is the Burgermeister, you may ask? Basically the mayor, but I just really like saying Burgermeister. Anyway, a total of 7 council members were yoinked out the window and all of them died in the fall. The King of Bohemia, Wenceslas, not the one from the song, different Wenceslas, was so shocked when he heard the news that he just died. In the end, the defenestration was the spark that set off the powder keg that was the Hussite Wars, which ended up lasting another 17 years. Honestly, I blame the guy who threw the rock, but really anybody could be at fault here. The second defenestration, which is considered to be the runt of the litter, occurred many years later on September 24th, 1483. In the build-up to this event, Prague had been experiencing serious religious and political turmoil under the rule of the Hungarian king Vladislaus. The party of the communion under both kinds, try saying that 3 times, decided to stage a coup, culminating in, you guessed it, another defenestration. They broke into the town halls of both the old and new towns of Prague and literally threw out 7 town council members and, once again, the Burgermeister. Interestingly enough, these defenestrations didn't contribute to unrest like the last one did. In fact, the second defenestration actually led to religious reconciliation between the Hussites and the Roman Catholics, eventually leading to 31 years of religious peace, which just goes to show that throwing people out windows can make love just as well as it can make war. And now we'll finish this off with the third defenestration, the big one of the bunch, which occurred on May 23rd, 1618. This one actually needs some background. After the long history of religious conflicts and eventual declaration of peace following the Second Defenestration, religious coexistence was ensured through the practice of cuius regio ius religio. Whoever ruled over the land determined the religion. The majority of the Habsburg kings who ruled over Bohemia for several centuries were remarkably tolerant of Bohemia's large Protestant population despite their Catholic background. However, when King Ferdinand II took over rule of the region, he brought with him an end to the religious freedom the Bohemian population had come to enjoy. And when religious peace is destabilized in Prague, you already know it's about to go down. It was time for another defenestration. In 1618, the Protestant estate leaders gathered 4 major Catholic lords to determine whether or not they had responsibility in the cessation of several Protestant churches' construction. After a bit of deliberation, they dismissed 2 of the 4 lords, leaving behind Count Willem Slavata of Chlum and Count Jaroslav Borita of Martinice, who admitted their involvement and accepted whatever punishments the Protestants could dish out. The lords were said to have assumed they could only be arrested, but they should have known from Prague's illustrious history of defenestration that their fates laid not in jail, but on the ground, several stories below. After giving an inspired speech, the Protestant Count Thurn promptly bonked both lords and their secretary right out the window. Amazingly, all 3 of them survived the 7-story fall, which Catholics later claimed was due to divine intervention, and Protestants claimed was due to the intervention of a pile of crap at the bottom of the tower. Either way, the secretary who fell was later given the title Lord of High Fall by the Pope, and whether or not this was intentional, it's still pretty funny. The third defenestration triggered a major backlash from King Ferdinand and eventually led to the 30 Years' War. A few other minor defenestrations occurred in Prague over the next few centuries, but these 3 are the biggest and most influential in the town's history. Whatever lesson or message you take away from this, just remember, there are always 2 sides of the coin when it comes to throwing people out of windows. Thanks for watching.